Hello there, Hawkeye fans, and welcome to the second episode of Hawkeyes and How. This is, for those that aren't initiated, this is kind of just a chance to get with former Hawkeye athletes and kind of catch up with what they're doing now and try to dive in a little bit more substance rather than just X's and O's, talk about life, where it's taken them from here or where they hope it takes them. And really happy to have Maurice Fleming with me today. He is a graduate of the University of Iowa. He was a member of he's 31 now. We were talking about that before we started recording. So if that doesn't make you feel old, you're not like me because it makes me feel old. Um, how do you feel, Maurice? How are things going in your world? We're going to dive in a little bit more about that now, but just wanted to get a chance to introduce you and welcome you to the show.
Yeah, I feel great, man. Thanks for having me. Just, clocking in another day's work here on a Friday. Kids are, off back at home for a couple of weeks until they come back around like June 2nd for, summer workouts.
Maurice is an assistant coach at Eastern Illinois University, and we will get into that a lot more. What he's doing now and being on the other side now, was a player, now as a coach, different lens. So definitely want to dive into that. As I said, Maurice graduated from Iowa and then transferred to West Virginia. Started for a Mountaineer team that finished 10-3 in 2016 and second in the Big 12. 43 solo tackles, 10 pass breakups, a pickoff, two tackles for loss, and one forced fumble. Um, that followed the 12-2 Rose Bowl in 2015 at Iowa. So Maurice, 22-5 in his final two college seasons. That's a lot of success, man. That must have been fun.
Yeah, it was fun to win for sure. Those were the expectations, especially at Iowa. Those two last ones, Michigan State and Stanford, those got us. But, if you look back at it years from now, winning 12 games in a row, that was special. That was special, especially with the brotherhood we had.
Yeah, yeah, I've done this since 1997, and that is definitely one of the special seasons. You don't get that very often, and you look back. I think as time goes by, you appreciate it a little bit more. Do you appreciate it a little bit more?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I still talk to a lot of the guys, Tavon Smith, Greg Maben, Jaleel Johnson, and Desmond King, Anthony Gare. We all like are in cahoots. Sean Draper as well. So it's definitely, as time passes, we just reminisce on the old days for sure, for sure.
Uh, great season down in Morgantown to finish up your college career, and you hook up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a free agent with them for 2 seasons, some practice squad, some injured reserve, but got a chance to be in the league and learn what that was about. 2019, the Ottawa Redbacks of the CFL, and then in 2021 or 22, Louisville Extreme of the Indoor Football League. So,
Yeah,
talk a
for
little bit
sure.
about your pro career. Just the time in Tampa, your time in Canada, and then the chance of indoor. Just kind of what that was like. There's a lot of different experiences there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a progression. I mean, at the end of the day, I left Iowa to go to West Virginia. Took a chance on myself, wanted to get some games underneath my belt for my resume, and just show that I can, be that guy to get an opportunity at the NFL level, which I did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I want to thank that organization for giving me that opportunity. It didn't pan out as well as far as injuries. It's best as far as a player, you have to be available. And, to that standpoint, I wasn't available at those moments. Had a knee injury, had a shoulder injury back to back years. Had a talk with the GM, Jason Light. And, he just honestly told me, he was like, hey, man, you can play in this league. You just got to stay available. You got to stay healthy. And, the next year I went to Ottawa Red Blacks, got my opportunity up there. And, it's funny. First play of the game with the Ottawa Red Blacks, we played the Edmonton. I think they were the Eskimos at the time. Tavon Smith breaks on the slant. I break on the slant, but I tear my ACL first play
Oh,
of the game. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is tough. This is the way life is right now. 3 years in a row with three injuries and had to overcome some adversity. I had to persevere through. And during 2020, I was still recovering from the ACL injury, and I decided to take another bet on myself as far as playing in that indoor football league in Louisville. And at the end of the day, it just didn't pan out. I got hurt again, and I had to figure out life from there. So it was a hard transition. I think all former athletes understand what that transitioning phase is and what you have to go through. But I leaned on a lot of my brothers, like Jordan Lomax for sure, right? He was one of my brothers there at University of Iowa, and I would always check up on him, vice versa, Miles Taylor as well. So they helped me like have that good transitioning phase throughout my playing career because they went through it early than I did. I didn't give up on it as soon. I kept going and I kept going until I couldn't do it anymore.
How did you know you couldn't do it anymore? Was there like a moment, or was it a process? What kind of take me through what that was like? You talked about athletes going through it. Kind of bring us into what that mindset is.
It's knowing that the older you get, you have to work harder, be a lot more disciplined, and you have to go through those growing pains yet again, over and over again. And those growing pains, man, they can get you mentally. And then you also have to change up physically as far as, I know I can't do this anymore, as far as recovering faster. And that was painful. And so sometimes it's just like, you know what? I'm not the same player that I used to be. I learned the Iowa way as far as Phil Parker being physical, you
Mhm.
know, and tough. And from the physicality standpoint, my knees, as far as changing direction and the long speed of playing cornerback, it just took a toll on my body. So, I was able to come to peace with myself and said, okay, like this is just short term goals. I have long term goals to fulfill, and I have to figure those out as far as what is my passion in life.
After you made that decision, become a grad assistant at Houston in 2022, was coaching the path, man? You talked about trying to figure out where you were going. Was it the path? And if it wasn't, how did you end up on it?
I don't want to paint with a wide brush, but like most former players, we never see us, just coaching. But I took something from Mike Tomlin on the podcast of Pivot. We didn't succeed as players, so you have a longer tenure in your coaching career, right? So I'm able to seek perfection in coaching and give back the game that I once learned from all the prior coaches that affected my life in a positive way. So, I mean, that was the whole thought process. Like, hey, let me get into coaching. And the way I got into coaching at University of Houston was a conversation that I had with Doug Belt. He's the USC secondary coach currently. Um, he talked to me back in 2016, and he said, "Hey,
Mhm.
man, you're a great guy, and when you're done with football, once you hang up the cleats, I got a job for you." And I was like, "Okay, all right, I have to put that into in my pocket, in my back pocket." But I was like, "I don't want to coach."
Yeah, because you're probably thinking I'm going to play in the league for 10 or 15 years, right? So coaching isn't really in your
Absolutely.
mind.
Absolutely. You're thinking 10 and done,
Yeah.
thinking 10 and done, but it ended up being two, and I still gained a lot of knowledge from, being in Tampa for sure. And, I gained a lot of knowledge in the CFL and even in the indoor football league. So, I want to, shout out to Coach Doug Belt for, holding that offer. Still to this day, we still talk and we connect, at least once a week.
So was he at the University of Houston? Is that kind of
So
how?
he was at West Virginia at the time. So
Okay.
my original coach, Blue Adams, he's the secondary coach at Michigan State. He had left to go to USF with Charlie Strong, and Doug Belt was hired by Tony Gibson. Okay, so we came back for pro day. At the time, I was a rookie. Um, going into the NFL. And we came back for pro day and everything like that, and we just talked, we just chopped it up and had a good time. And you know, he introduced himself. He has knowledge from Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. He GA for those guys at Alabama for 3 years. So it helped me out as far as understanding football and the knowledge just being there as a graduate assistant with Coach Belt because he was a DC at the time, and you got guys like this, the cornerbacks coach currently there now, David Rowe at Rutgers. Okay, he was the corners coach at my time there at University of Houston. You have Archie McDaniels. He's the linebackers coach at University of Illinois. So those guys kind of like put their arms around me and gave me the knowledge that I need to know. And it was quick, fast, and hurry. I thought I knew football, but man, I was far behind. I was far behind for sure, for sure.
So grad assistants, that's the bottom of the totem pole, right? You're like you're working your way up from the ground floor. What was that year like, just in terms of responsibilities and what you took out of it?
Yeah, your typical graduate assistant role is, make sure uh, you got everybody's system down pat. You got to put your pride to the side. If they need a cup of coffee, you go get that cup of coffee, right? So, um, I was very eager. It felt like, I was home as far as like being around the game of football. But the challenges were, you know, catching the coverages and adapting to the languages right away. You have to do your computer work as far as understanding Visio and PowerPoint, being able to draw the play cards, okay, film breakdowns of who can hurt us, who can help us, setting up the defensive coordinators' meetings, all right, making sure the PowerPoints are up to date and loaded. That way, as soon as he walks in, everybody's mouths are shut and all eyes are on him and on that board. So I mean, it was a good adjustment at the time. It everything happened fast, and then just being able to have time to study the playbook and understand the defense. Because at the end of the day, like Coach Rowe, he would test me. He would give me like 3 seconds, 5 seconds to answer a question. And if I didn't answer it in time, he was like, "It's 7-0. I just scored a touchdown." Like what the heck are you doing? At the time. So he's putting pressure on me, making me sweat. I'm looking like he was like, "Sit down. You're not going home. Like, what are you doing? You don't even understand the playbook." And so he was challenging me as a coach because I had to shift my mind from a player to a coach, and that helped. And I thank him for that.
I think that's something that probably people don't see behind closed doors, Maurice, is the coaches coaching younger coaches to be coaches. It's kind of the process, right? You give
For
back,
sure. So what was the last one? I couldn't hear you.
you kind of give back, right? Somebody
Oh,
taught
you
you,
mean
so
yeah.
then you teach somebody else.
It's all about giving back, man. I mean, we're in this business to serve, and they've done a great job with serving, especially giving me the game that I need to, prolong my career in the coaching business.
So you finish the year, or maybe it's before you finish the year at Houston. How does the EIU opportunity come up? How did you end up at Eastern?
Ending up at Eastern, I got a phone call after one spring practice, and Coach Mack asked me, he was like, "Man, you ready for a job? You ready to run your own room?" And I said, "Yes, sir, of course." And he was like, "Well, EIU, they're looking for a cornerbacks coach." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm ready. Like, let's set this up." So I sent them my resume. We got on an interview with Clay Bignell. He's at New Mexico right now, and he was the DC at the time here. And you had, of course, our head coach currently, Chris Wilkinson. And so we got on a Zoom call and, went through the process of the interview. And it was a success, man. And it was easy to be back here from a recruiting standpoint as well, with a familiar face like myself being from Chicago, Illinois. And it helped. It helped.
Yeah, and you added defensive pass game coordinator to your responsibilities before the 24 season. So that what kind of was that like, and what was the transition like from being a grad assistant to owning, or not owning, but running your own room?
Yeah, just having your own room, man. I was already I already got the information from Coach Rowe and Coach Belk, listening to those guys. They say, "Hey, man, when you have your own room, like it hits different as far as, look, if those guys make mistakes, it's going to keep you up all night. You're going to try to figure those out so you can have solutions to those problems, right? When they do the good things, you don't want to get too high, but you don't want to get too low. You want to
Right.
just stay in that nice gray area." And so like those were some of the things that I learned while transitioning from a GA to my first year being here. And we had fast success. I had hard workers, uh, you know not not a lot of talent, right? So what I wanted to do was just get them to understand, like, hey, man, I've been in your shoes before. Like, hey, at University of Iowa, we didn't have 4 or 5 stars, right? We had walk-ons, we had your 1 stars, no stars, 1 stars all the way to 3 stars, right? And put those stars to the side. That doesn't matter anymore. It's about building team culture. It's about being able to teach, develop, and inspire, right? And so I got those guys to buy in with the mentality of as we go, the team goes, right? Save no heartbeats at all. And so those guys, I crushed them, but I prepared them for, those tough moments on Saturdays. And so, we end up with the success of being 8-3.
Um, it just looking at your bio on the team's website, it says that you recruit Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Is that still the case? And going into that, what's it like being on the other side now? You were a recruited athlete. What's it like now recruiting? And did you take anything from the time you were recruited to that, you put into action now?
Oh yeah, for sure. Being being recruited, you had the glitz and glamour, right?
Yeah.
You built those relationships with your coaches that you can see that you'll be in their room daily, and just understanding that these men are going to help you become a man one day. So you want to be able to, um, whatever I learned from those coaches, as far as my visits, I wanted to be able to, put a little twist with my coaching philosophy, right? And it helps, man. It helps. I try to get the guys to understand, even though you have NIL now, um, you still want to be transformational over transactional. I think transformational takes care of itself, and you're able to one day just take care of your family. But at the end of the day, football is a short term goal. Let's get back on task with long term goals, right? Because at the end of the day, I want you to be happy. I want you to have peace. I want you to have knowledge, and I want you to have wisdom and understanding. So I think that plays a long way.
Do you like being able to get out in other parts of the country and kind of sell Eastern Illinois and what you guys are doing?
Oh yes, it's great. I mean, it's not that hard here at EIU because there's no glitz and glamour. We're blue collar, right? But you have your guys that you can sell to the program. As far as down south, for sure, like Texas, you have Tony Romo. That's perfect, right? You
Yeah.
got Tony Romo. We can go old school. You got Mike Shanahan. You got Sean Payton, right?
Mhm.
And last but not least, you have Jimmy Garoppolo. But here, me being a cornerbacks coach, you want to have your own coaching tree to sell to the other cornerbacks as well. And so, Russell Dandy has helped me out a lot. He was a All-American,
Mhm.
uh, my first year here, and he's currently with the Winnipeg in the CFL. So, I can help myself out by saying like, hey, I'm able to develop, right?
Yeah.
And so, last year we didn't have the season that we wanted, but I was able to, get one of my guys, Najee Burt, um, into Michigan State with his ability, So, those are some of the things that I can, be able to sell to the recruits because at the end of the day, you got to have a selling pitch. I mean, whether you like it or not, and just being honest and let those guys know, like, hey, man, I can develop, and I don't want you to play with a tight butthole, but we will be held accountable. We will have discipline. We're
Yeah.
going to build character daily, right? So I need you to be all in. I don't need you to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Be where your feet are at.
Yeah. Okay. Um, what uh, what do you find most rewarding about the profession, and what are your aspirations? Where do you hope this takes
Um, the most rewarding thing is first and foremost winning. I love to win.
you?
I love to win. It's very rewarding. It's good to see the team come together. Because I was once a part of a winning culture, and so developing the guys because you see the hard work they put in. Um, we don't talk about the injuries enough. We deal with a lot of adversity with those players. They go through dark moments, and I'm able to share those moments with those guys and tell them that, hey, I understand. All right, and you're going to beat this. This is not everlasting. You have to make the adjustments from a mental standpoint and be able to um, grind it out, man. I mean, it's football.
Yeah.
It's football. So we're going to get after it. So understand what the game comes with, accept it, but don't let it defeat you at the end of the day. And what inspires me most is being able to just inspire those guys, right? being able to inspire those guys is the main thing.
What are your career goals? Do you have those? Do you take it day to day? Do you put things out there to try to reach? How do you approach that?
Yeah, career goals, man. I kind of write them down in the book, early morning, probably during lunch and in the evening. I think you got to write your goals down and be intentional. Coaching is intentional if you want to get in this business. And at the end of the day, I want to be the best that I can be. So I want to be the best cornerback coach currently right now, best defensive pass game coordinator, understanding what the offenses are doing and how they want to attack us. What are our weaknesses on the defense, right? And so just being able to, you know, have certain matchups and win those matchups week to week. And at the end of the day, I think it take care of itself as far as, continuing to network with coaches and build those relationships, right? And, at the end of the day, we'll see where I'm at. Hopefully I would love to become a defensive coordinator one day. And I just came back from Tampa Bay with the Bucks, the National Coaches Academy, and just listening to Coach Bowles, man. Um, just seeing it from his perspective and why put a ceiling, you know, on top of myself. I think the sky's the limit. And once you learn and understand, you can become a head coach one day.
Yeah, no doubt. If you take care of business now, it'll take care of business later, right? You just do your work
Absolutely.
now, and that'll take you where you want to go. All right.
Absolutely.
Going to take a short break here. Got a couple reads, and then we're going to come back and go back to take Maurice back to high school and kind of his recruitment and Iowa and talk a little bit about more of his college career when we come back from this break. But want to let folks know that support for the podcast comes from Systems Unlimited, celebrating 50 years of providing services to people living with disabilities and mental health needs throughout East Central Iowa. A list of their services and upcoming events can be found at sui.org. That is sui.org. Thank you, Systems Unlimited, for the great work they're doing in our community for over half a century, and appreciate them sponsoring the podcast. We're going to hear from a few more sponsors now. Maurice and I will be back on the other side with some more Hawk Talk. Hang in. And we are back on Hawkeyes and How with Maurice Fleming, former Hawkeye, former Mountaineer, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, former Red Black, former, what was the Louisville franchise? The Extreme?
The extreme. The extreme.
Okay. A lot of formers with Maurice. He's got a lot on the resume. Want to let you guys know before we jump back in that switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on the lights, we switch TV channels. Some of us switch partners while square dancing. Well, that's a stretch. But what's not a stretch is how you can switch and save with State Farm. In fact, State Farm agent Chad Birch, right here in Iowa, can switch you over so you can start saving today. Chad and his team are ready to welcome you to the State Farm neighborhood. With Chad Birch, it's easy to switch and save. Just give them a call when you want the real deal, like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Last but not least, Black Angel Restaurant, downtown Iowa City. Perez Brothers owned and operated, formerly of El Banditos, Perez Tacos, Black Angel Restaurant, live music on the weekends, great food all week. Check them out, Black Angel Restaurant. All right, Maurice, we got the bills paid. Let's jump back in here. Just before I get back into that, I kind of had a thought while I was reading. You know, there's still that push for progress when it comes to Black coaches in this business in trying to, get you guys into coordinator positions and get you guys into head coaching positions. How aware of you are that, and how much do you get involved? I know there, Mike Loxley is big with that at Maryland, trying to help with that. How much are you a part of that, and how much does that, mean to you, that responsibility?
I mean, it means a lot. Right now, I'm still on the outside looking in as far as the coalition that they have with Mike Loxley. But I'm gonna continue to develop those relationships with the guys, and hopefully get in that way I can understand and seek that knowledge that I'm looking for, because I'm very interested for sure.
What are the keys, do you think, to maybe improving the numbers?
Just getting guys to get their foot in the door. Just build on those relationships. Always leave in good standing if you can, and you never know what those relationships will take you. at the end of the day. So, I mean, you got to keep building day by day.
Yeah, no doubt. And look forward to seeing where your career goes. But let's look a little back a little bit more on how you got here. Class of 2012 recruit at a Curry Metropolitan High School. That's southwest side of Chicago. Again, we'll go back to how much Maurice likes to win. He said that is the most rewarding part of coaching. He did it as a player too. Public league champs in 2010, 4 straight years of the state playoffs. You played quarterback in high school, dual threat quarterback. How fun was that?
It was amazing. You got to touch the ball every play, man. It was good. I mean, just being able to communicate with the guys, huddle up, build that chemistry on and off the field, and being able to just make good judgmental, throws. Even though like my first play at quarterback with the varsity, I threw an interception,
Oh,
and I was hard on myself. And my head coach Tyson LeBlanc, he's at Oswego East now. He would tell me like, he said, "Hey kid, that's your first throw, all right," and it was an interception. Now let the anxiety go. And, it ended up panning out for me.
what was that time like? What was high school like for you? It's kind of a special time. It's guys you kind of grew up with, right? You're playing together. It's a different kind of bond. What was it like for you? And you guys had a lot of success too.
Yeah, the bond was special at Cary High School because my sophomore year, November 4th, to be exact, 2009, we lost one of my childhood friends, Kwashi Chandler. He was a running back at the time. He was a senior. We played Bolingbrook. It was the second game of the season. And he had an asthma attack, man. And, it was fourth quarter. We didn't know what exactly happened. At the time, we just, called the paramedics over and we finished the game. But as soon as the game finished, and you drive with your mom and my aunt to the hospital, and everybody just outside crying. It was just like a real movie scene. He didn't make it, and it was a late night game as well. So just imagine it was his mother's first game there, and it was just heartbreaking. It was tragic. So that brought us together for sure. It brought the brotherhood together because he was an angel, man. He was an angel. He was an angel for sure, and it was just tough on us. It was very tough, but that was a lot of motivation for me as a man, because at that point in time I was heavy on basketball, so that transitioned my mental mindset and my approach to, man, I love this brotherhood. I love this team. I'm all in on football right now. So, all my work ethic is going to go through Kwashi Chandler. And I hope that he's on my shoulder day by day and helping me overcome these tough obstacles, as well as, my teammates.
Yeah, that's and then I imagine when you saw what happened to Damar Hamlin, that probably was like, whoa, somebody collapses
Oh,
on the field. Oh, crap.
for
Because
sure. You never want that to happen a part of the game. I mean, it comes with it. But nobody's really, you can never really prepare for those moments, excuse me. So, I mean, when it happens, it's, it's tough, man. It's tough.
um, and then you know you probably see a lot growing up in a metropolitan area like that. It's a different world, right? From people that grow up in Iowa or somewhere more rural, and then you had to deal with tragedy again in 2000, August of 2015 when you lost Vaughn. So you've dealt with a lot of that. What was that time like? You're a little older now. You're in college, but still, man, it's like. And for those that don't know, you were invited to hang out. You could have been there.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, right before, summer camp, my best friend Vaughn at the time, don't try to not choke up, right? But you take me back through a dark moment, Rob.
Yeah.
But um, let's see. He went to my mother's and my grandmother's house on Friday. I didn't leave just yet. I was still in Iowa City. I wanted to work out, a little harder. You make sure I was good for training camp as far as conditioning. We got to run all day, and I decided to come back on like Saturday morning, right? And we were supposed to hang out, just catch up on old times because he went to a school out in Virginia. And, you know, I didn't want to go out at the time. I wasn't really much of a person that liked to go out at all. I was more so in the house type of guy. I like to play the video games and, just watch TV or work out. That was my life. And, I was headed back to Iowa the next day, Sunday morning. And that's when I got the call. And it was devastating, man, from a friend. And, they just told me he had got shot and wrong place at the wrong time. And, it was a robbery. And it was a chain around one of my friends' necks, and it wasn't even around his. And I was just in awe, right? And it was very tragic. But I knew like that year in 2015 that I went through that mentally. And as far he had a brother, he had a little sister, just thinking heavily for for those guys. He had a dad, he had a mom, right? He had a stepmom too. So it was just tough. And I took the same approach that I had with Kwashi Chandler with Von King, right? And so I knew we were getting ready to have a great moment there at the University of Iowa leading up to it. And for sure, I didn't mistake it. We went 12-0 and finished off 12-2. So it was a hard year for me mentally, but just being around your teammates, it makes it that much better because you have a shoulder to lean on. You have multiple shoulders to lean on, and so they understand. Some understand, some don't, but they did give their condolences, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's I'm sure all of this stuff, as tragic as it is, has probably taught you things and about yourself and about the world. And that's what you hope, right? Even the awful experiences, you hope to take something out of them that you can use and make yourself better. So I'm hoping you did that through those times. It seems like you're in a good place.
I'm in a great place, man. I'm in a great place, Rob. I am. I am. I'm blessed. Um, just thanking God daily and just leaning on Him and asking Him, like, what do I need to do next? What are if I have cloudy judgment, I will ask and pray, submit to Him, man, and just ask for, that guidance that I need. That way I can guide others.
Yeah, and that's good, and I'm sure those guys would be proud of you, right? That you have used it for a positive. And all right, so we're going to dive into the some of the Iowa stuff. I think people that are listening to this that know some of the story that from your time at Iowa uh, wasn't perfect. First of all, you didn't get to play as much as you want to, but I want to let folks know that here are some of the names that were at Iowa with Maurice that he was competing for playing time with. As he mentioned, Desmond King, Greg Maben, BJ Lowry, Sean Draper, Josh Jackson, Michael Ojemudia. It's freaking hard to play at Iowa, man. There's good players every year, everywhere, but you were a key core member of special teams. I think you started against what? Pittsburgh in 14? I think I remember that. Didn't you start against Pittsburgh in 14?
15, 15.
15. Okay.
Mhm.
So you got some time playing at cornerback too, but um, it it, uh, it didn't work out probably the way you wanted to in terms of playing time. But it sounds like overall the experience now that you reflect on it and have some time to look back at it was good. Um, Coming out of high school, you chose the Hawkeyes. I looked it up, Maurice. You had offers from Cincinnati, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and quite a few others. Lester Erb was your lead recruiter. So you got a lot going on there too. You tear your ACL as a senior in high school. You're going to college for the first time. The guy that recruited you is not going to be there when you get there. What was that time like? What are your memories of showing up at I?
And before you say that, you got to add Micah Hyde, man.
Yeah, I
Micah,
forgot Micah. Yeah,
yeah, you got
yeah.
to add
He
Micah.
he he wasn't a bum. And there
But
were
at the end of
others
the
too. Those were guys that were off the top of my head. I mean, every
Greg
year at Iowa.
Castillo, yeah, Greg Castillo, he was solid. He was solid for sure. And then you had some nice safeties back there in that secondary
Yeah, I can imagine what
for sure.
practice was like for you guys.
Intense,
Yeah.
intense. It still is intense.
Yeah.
I was just with Nick Jackson with the Bucks. He just made the 90-man roster. Congrats to him.
Yeah.
But
Great
he,
kid.
he still says it's intense.
Yeah.
But going back and looking at that when Coach Herb departed, at the end of the day, I had the relationship with Coach Parker. And, Coach Herb would reach out from time to time and make sure everybody was good as far as who we recruit and build those relationships with. Because at the end of the day, man, he's a father as well. And so we built a strong bond. But I had to bond with Coach Parker as well. So Coach Woods, Coach Kelvin Bell as well. Like so, it was good. It was a smooth transition. But as far as competing for playing time on a daily, it was tough, man. I mean, we were battling day by day, and at the end of the day, you had to stay healthy. And I would battle with hamstring injuries in fall camp. Old school tour days, and you got to stay available. You got to stay available. But when my number was called, I wanted to make the best of it. You talk about Pitt, right? I got my first starting opportunity there because Maven went down,
Mhm.
and I ended up spraining my ankle. But Maven played with a sprained ankle, and he finished out the game strong. Man, he locked down Tyler Boyd. It was Tyler Boyd either had digs or out routes, and Maven would just read the hip and get out of his breaks, and he saved the day for us. He saved the day for us in coverage because they did not want to throw the Desmond King side.
I'll give people another example of, and I think you going to West Virginia and having the season you did is an example of this. But, you know, after you had left, there was Riley Moss and Julius Brents competing for playing time opposite, I think it was Cooper DeJean on the other side or some other guy that's in the NFL now. And Julius is like, I'm going to transfer to Kansas State. Transfers to Kansas State, high NFL draft pick. Nobody's fault at Iowa. You have guys that they're capable of playing. It's kind of a numbers game, right? There are just too many guys to play.
Well, at the end of the day, I think Phil Parker's philosophy, man. I want to bring in guys that he can trust. And only two corners are going to play in that defense, and you may play if you're the third or fourth corner as far as nickel and dime
Yeah.
packages, right? And you get that development in because you never know when your number's called, right? So like Greg maybe went down, or Desmond King would needed a breather. So when you go in, you got to make the best of that opportunity and I think that's the approach, right? Coach Parker wants to recruit starters.
Right.
Like once a man goes down, the mentality was next man in, right? So when the next man in, you don't lose too much. I mean, you're not far off from ability standpoint. Yeah, he knows what he wants, he knows what he likes, and he knows what works for the system. So from that approach, as a player, we didn't know that at the time, but if I look back at it now, right, as a coach, and that's a great philosophy to have.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's iron sharpens iron. I know that's more offense defense, but it's also, you know, guys in the same room pushing each other, right?
Correct. Daily. That was a interesting group, man. I mean, we love to compete, and a guy could be tired, okay, coughing blood maybe. It's I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out because I know for a fact there's a high chance, it's a high percentage that I may not get my job back. So we push each other from that standpoint, and as it goes, we had success behind it. And when I transitioned to West Virginia, I came in with that same approach. And, I played with another good cornerback, Rasul Douglas. That's my brother to this day. And he was able to take that mentality and the stories that I gave him from Iowa and put it in towards his repertoire at West V.
All right. So kind of the elephant in the room here, and I talked to Maurice before we started recording. We don't want to go down this road too much because he's moved on and he's moved on with his career. But obviously, Iowa went through a transitional period in 2020, like a lot of this country. Um, Kind of an awakening that needed to happen, I think. And you talked about some of the things that were tough for you at Iowa. Obviously, the football was really good, but maybe not the day to day always. And I think I was probably gotten better from some of the stories that you guys told. How do you look back on that? I don't want to lead you anywhere. I just want you to kind of
Yeah,
talk
for sure.
about that time and where you are now compared to maybe when you talked about some of those times when you were at Iowa.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much to sum it all up, you learn what to do and what not to do. I mean, through life experiences and life challenges. And at the end of the day, it was tough for a lot of guys there, um, black and white. All right, so it's not let's not just single out blacks. It was white guys going through, my white teammates going through it as well, and but at the end of the day, when it came down to it, uh, it was tough on us mentally, especially when you have um, inner city kids coming to a school that's predominantly white institution and being able to make that transition and learning how to assimilate or how to fit in. Those were some of the challenges as black men coming in, young black men coming in. Because at the end of the day, we may not have both parents in the household. We may not have that father figure that we need, and we lack resources. And, a part of the times I felt like lacking those resources, we were judged, right? And a lot of guys did not get treated fairly. And that's why James Daniels at the time, he understood what some of us went through. So that's why he reached out to us and, was like, hey, this is the time to like state your case. I mean, I understand what you guys went through, and, I just want to be able to get your story out. And so him and LaShawn, they just felt for us. They felt our pain. Cause I mean, it wasn't all glitz and glamour there. Um, the winning, it helped. But it was dark days there for sure. It built a lot of character overall, man.
One of the things that I think was talked about during that time is not being able to be your authentic self. And you talked about assimilation and kind of, maybe changing the way you view things or changing the way you carry yourself. Could you talk a little bit about that? When people talk about not being able to be their authentic self?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's I learned from this different cloth. Okay, I was raised with by my mother and my grandmother. Okay, and my father figures were coaches, and the coaches in inner city of Chicago, man, we're from the neighborhood, right? From the projects, and at the end of the day, when I go to a predominantly white school, maybe some can relate, maybe some can't, and if you want to be a part of something, right? And maybe it goes back to recruiter. I don't know. All right. If I maybe I need to take some time and actually think and sit on it myself and I can give you a better answer. But when you look at the culture, I think that's important. But when I saw Iowa from a recruiting standpoint, I looked at okay, Kirk Ferentz is the longest tenured head coach there. He's not going to leave anytime soon. Okay. You got
Stability, right? Stability is important for recruits.
stability. It's very important, right? Because at the time, you couldn't just transfer. If you transfer, you had to sit out a year
Right,
and maybe go JUCO,
right.
right? So you had to weigh out your odds. And I think, time has changed overall where, you're giving a little more power to the athletes. Uh, but, at that time, Phil Parker was there for a long time and he developed the heck out of defensive backs. Okay. And I wanted to play cornerback there at the time. So I wanted to learn the ins and outs of how to backpedal, get out my brakes,
Right.
change direction, understand the game, 53 and a third, 120 yards length of the field, right? 21 white lines. Okay. And I think it's 320 ticks. So, Phil Parker was that, you know, he was that perfect psychotic energy that you needed day to day. And that's what I wanted, man. And that's what I needed at the time because I took a bet on myself. I'm a kid from Chicago. A lot of kids don't make it out of Chicago. Let's be honest, especially from a football background. And I took that leap of faith on myself, and it just it didn't work itself out as far as how I wanted and how I foresaw my career. But I do appreciate the challenges that Phil Parker gave me.
It's interesting that I think Maurice, and maybe this is again, I don't want to lead you, but when I look at it, I mean, I've covered this program since 1997. I know a lot of guys, so I've I've talked to a lot of guys through the years. I've covered a lot of guys' recruitments. I know a lot of people that have played in this program, and I think during that time, people were like, "Well, it's all bad, right? It's racist. It's you got to tear it up. It's all bad." But I think, and this is just me from the outside looking in again, that the ends didn't justify the means before 2020, even though there were wins. The maybe what was happening to get there and how to get there in terms of how players were treated differently was not right. But then you make a switch in 2020, the wins are still continuing, but the means aren't the same. Everybody's more, there's equality now. People are talking about it. I think that's a great lesson. And not that you hope none of that stuff shouldn't have happened. It was wrong and shouldn't have happened. But at least, again, like we talked about, like, making good out of bad situations. It seems like that's happening. What's your relationship now like with Iowa? And is that an accurate portrayal of what's happened in the program from your point?
Yeah, my relationship with Iowa, man, from afar, I love their success. At the end of the day, I'm rooting for them. I graduated there, right? So I'm looking at the guys, and I'm rooting for them from a far standpoint. But relationship, I still talk to. I like you'll see Seth Wallace, you'll see Kelvin Bell, you'll see LeVar Woods and Coach Parker during recruiting visits, right? And it's hey, how you doing, man? Haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to catch up, and we keep it very professional. And that's our relationship, right? Even with Coach Ferentz, talk to him over the phone. Hey, Maurice, how you doing? He always checks in and things like that. No hard feelings at all. Just keep it very professional. That's our relationship. I mean, would I like for it to be closer? Of course. I mean, I was there for 4 years, right? But at the end of the day, business is business, and you know people may feel a certain type of way, but we're grown men, and at the end of the day, we're in this business to develop, teach, and inspire.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't want to relitigate this and go through, some of what Maurice talked about in terms of what his experiences were. You can find those online; they're out there. Some of the issues he had at Iowa. Um, but it is your alma mater, and it seems like you still care.
Oh, I'm always going to care, and at the end of the day, man, I still talk to former players there, and it has gotten better. Okay, that's all I've heard. I haven't been back there to Iowa City in some time, but I heard it's gotten better, and that's a great thing. That's all you can ask for, right? That was the main goal. That was the mission. Like just better it for the players. That way, it could be a smoother transition for them. At the end of the day, make it feel like a home because it is your home, right? And the fans, they love you, right? There's no professional sports teams there, right? We all know that. And they treat you like a professional athlete. They know who you are. You walk around the campus, you got to sign autographs. You got to be willing to, be open to talk, smile, just encourage. You got kids that are, look at you as a role model. So you got to carry yourself in a professional way. And that's all that is, man. That's all I can say for real. To just be honest.
Yeah. Um, what did you take out of those experiences? And you talked about things that needed to change at Iowa during your time there. Do you kind of see stuff now that you're in coaching, and are you more aware of those things that maybe, whether it's a microaggression or something like that, things that are out there that your antennas are up more now, just to make sure that where you are, everything is good. Where
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
working, everything is good. You want because
Yeah, for sure.
you want your wherever whatever program you want are in, you want it to be the best it can be.
Oh, for sure, and it is. I mean, at the end of the day, when you coach is either X and O guy, you're a disciplinarian, right? You're a yeller, okay? You could be a motivator, but at the end of the day, you build those relationships the correct way, right? It's more so demanding and not demeaning, right? you want to give these guys the method. That way they can see the vision. It's all a big picture, right? So
Mhm.
I want to paint you this picture, or let's better yet, let's use puzzle. Okay. If I want you to see this big picture, right, we need to add small pieces to the puzzle daily, daily. And I demand the most out of you as your coach, okay? Because we are in this together. This is a business, all right? And I try to get those guys to understand from a professional standpoint, you are self employed. So you have to take care of your stuff on and off the field as well as I. We represent a logo. Everybody does, right? So you represent that logo to the best of your ability and live with no regrets.
Yeah. Last piece here, and I'll let you go. I know you got probably a lot of work to do here. You talked about back in 2020 mental health, impact that time when you were, impressionable, getting out of high school, being in college. Um, some of the experiences impacted your mental health, and that's such a big part of, I think, and I think for the better in athletics now, professional, college, high school. There's more attention given to that. How important is that? How much do you pay attention to that? And where's your mental health at now? That in the last 5 years, from maybe where you were in 2020 to where you are now.
First and foremost, it's up there. My psychological fortitude is very high.
Good. That's great to hear.
My mom, Rochelle Harper, she gave me a book at the time where, I was going through a lot with my dad. He committed suicide. And I never had the relationship that I wanted with my father, right? But I did have a lot of relationships from a fatherhood standpoint, a father figure from coaches. Okay, so it was me able to be at peace um, with the decision making that I had no control over, right? And you got to control what you can. And I think if you look at my whole lifetime, and I still got more living to do, it's but everybody has a story, right? And you want to be able to understand that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, Rob. Firm believer in that. And my grandmother, she made me go to church every Sunday. Okay, and you have to have God in your life. You have to have some type of belief to keep going hard and striving, taking one step forward at a time. It's okay to take a couple steps backwards. All right. See the vision, see the view, and understand where you need to go. Okay. In order to get something, you have to sacrifice something. And everybody's going to go through some adversity because once you start praying for what you really want in life, man, I honestly believe God prepares you for every moment that you're getting ready to go through once you get that title or once you get that opportunity of where you need to be. Right. And so if you're going to ask for it, man, be willing and be ready for those challenges.
Very well said, and I think that's a good place for us to wrap up. And it's good advice for everybody that because it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, man. There's always challenges. Whatever profession you choose, whatever path you take, there are going to be obstacles, hurdles, challenges. But you got to do what you can to come out the other side and kind of build towards that, right? And then hopefully, at the end of the day, at the end of the line, you can look back and say, "Hey, I did it, right? I made it, and I did it, and I overcame all these things." So I'm happy that you have. You've had a lot more on your plate than a lot of people have, but it's great to see you smiling, man, and it's great to see your face. And I wish you the best, and I thank you so much for giving us your time and telling your story because I think it's important.
I appreciate you for reaching out and catching up, and man, hopefully your fans can understand and take this and have this as a lesson, another chapter in their book. Just flip the pages and actually retain their information, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. It's when we stop learning, I think we die, right? You got to keep learning. And if you listen to people, listen to their stories, it makes you a better person. So I'm glad we were able to get Maurice's story and It is far from over. I think it's just starting, to be honest with you. I look forward to seeing where this goes, and I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in to Hawkeyes and How, and we'll be back with another episode soon. You all be well.